These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Where being a coordinator is, in my opinion, it's about putting the personnel and the people you have in the best possible situations to be successful, and 90% of that, in my opinion, is the quarterback. If the quarterback has success, normally the other 10 guys, if they do their job around him, will feel that success as well. But then at the same time, I think it's a matter of avoiding the negative plays. And part of putting your guys in situations to be successful is not putting them in situations where if they don't make the right split-second reaction, catastrophic plays can happen that lose football games.
There he is, the new Vikings head coach, spewing some cliches there from his time in Washington. That was from a few years ago.
Oh, get ready for that, yeah.
Some cliches.
That's the job there.
I don't think we're going to get moody, petulant, angry. I think Kevin O'Connell's going to be a little bit more like, corporate coach speak than maybe Mike Zimmer was at times.
Rocco-ish, I think.
Yeah.
Might not be that bad, but more like he's going to go more towards the Baldelli way, certainly, than the Zim way, right?
Yeah, I could see that being the case. Drive Patrick Ricey nuts. So this is a Statements Monday here on Mackey and Judd, and we'll get more to. There's a great article in The Athletic that we're starting to get more information about who Kevin O'Connell is. We're going to talk. Alex Boone was texting me over the weekend saying he's basically watching like every play of Rams football offensively. Just grinding the film, and he's going to give us a full dissertation on. I said, explain it to us like we are idiots, which we are, and you can do that on Purple Daily tomorrow. So, but let's start off statements on this Monday. Judd, you bat lead off.
All right, statement number one comes from the Pro Bowl postgame show last night, and a quote I'm going to read you, but the statement is this: Adam Schefter is being used. Not abused, but he's being used, and here's why. Post-game comment from Schefty on the ESPN ABC, I guess, Pro Bowl coverage last night. Quote, here's the thing that you have to keep in mind. They're going to be bringing in Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell worked with Kirk Cousins in Washington. Kirk Cousins endorsed Kevin O'Connell for that job. One of the reasons Kevin kind of wants that job is because of Kirk. There's a relationship. So that tells me that Minnesota and Kirk Cousins will figure out something and maybe come up with a restructured contract that adds years on for Kirk Cousins and gives the Vikings salary cap relief this offseason to give them more money to spend on other players. Adam Schefter is being used because this is the first domino in the dominoes that traditionally fall, no matter who Schefty's source is, the Cousins camp or Kwesi, who might be brilliant, but you're not going to be floating out there right now. Talk to the Vikings, I've talked to their people, and they desperately want to trade Kirk. You are going to create a market for Kirk, and the best way possible is to say, as I told Dex last night, the best thing to possibly say is, oh, no, you don't. You don't ask about, hold on a second. A first-round pick? Okay. So this is, I think ultimately Schefty is allowing himself to be used here because there's a fighting chance when the Cousins trade goes down, he'll get the call or the text first.
Schefty sometimes will just allow himself to be used by sources inside the NFL.
I'm saying he has
their own personal agendas.
I'm saying he has to. I get that. And also, last thing, Phil, 2018, Mall of America, Radio Row. This week, as far as Super Bowl week, do you recall the biggest trade that was agreed to that week?
Was it the Alex Smith trade?
It was indeed. I believe the Stafford trade last year around this time. Trigger can't officially be pulled until March 16th. But my point is, be wary of the assumption that the wheels of justice for the Vikings quarterback situation are not already turning.
This is really interesting because it's, the ownership decided we have a good, not great coach, but we seek greatness, so he's fired. We have a good, not great general manager, but we seek greatness, so he's fired too. And we have a good, not great quarterback, but we're going to build everything around him for the next 3 years and attach the new general manager and the new coach to the 14th best quarterback in the NFL. It doesn't seem to add up, but that report by Schefter piqued my interest in a lot of ways, because I think the path that you just went down makes some sense. But listen, like, they did hire a head coach that worked very closely with Kirk Cousins, and could I see him come in here and say, listen, I can get more out of him. I know that I can get more out of him. I saw what we did with Matthew Stafford in L.A. You know, I think Kevin is one of the only coaching candidates on that initial list of 8 that I would have said, interesting. Connection to Kirk, probably a little bit of an inflated quarterback ego just based on the work that he's done in L.A. with Matt Stafford. So I don't know what to make of it. I legitimately don't know what to make of it. I agree with you, though, that no matter what, the Vikings have, whether they're keeping Kirk or trading Kirk, their first public or even off-the-record comments have to be about how much they love Kirk, no matter what. Because if you're going to keep him, you got to boost him up, and you got to try to build relationship, right? He's coming off this frayed relationship with the head coach and the coaching staff. And if you're going to trade him, you need to be telling everyone right now, oh, we love this guy. Why would we ever trade this guy? Boy, I guess if you want to float an offer, start with at least 4 first-round picks, and we'll work from there, right? So maybe this is just the first sort of strategic, chess move here. But I don't know. What do you think, Declan? Do you think Schefter is being used, or do you think he's reflecting what the Vikings actually want to do, keep Kirk Cousins?
My statement on this after hearing what Schefter had to say was, be prepared for life with Kirk Cousins in 2022. That's my opening statement on that. Is be prepared. Time will still tell if the Vikings want it. I don't know what that is from. What is that from? That's from Lion King?
It's a Lion King reference. Yeah.
Really?
I wouldn't know.
Judd would never know. I usually Disney references usually come in pretty good, pretty strong for me. I'm a little upset at myself now.
I'm just going to bow out.
I'm upset at myself now.
See you guys later. Bye.
Just continue.
I'm buying stock though from Schefter in terms of Kevin O'Connell wanting to keep Kirk Cousins, and that doesn't mean that they want to explore trade offers. But I can understand why they don't want to move on from him. Personally, I would. But I've seen enough from Kirk Cousins that I know he won't lead the Vikings to a Super Bowl unless I can be convinced otherwise. But let me speak on behalf of the Kirk stands here for once, which is something I usually don't do. The Vikings brain trust had 8 years of crusty old Mike Zimmer, right? And him and Kirk, let's be honest, they just didn't get along. It was clear they never saw eye to eye. The weird you like me moment, like that moment against the Lions this year, there was clearly like animosity between the two. It was just a strange relationship. And he didn't get along with Kirk. Kevin O'Connell has a relationship with Kirk. And this is the first time that the Vikings ownership group is leaning into Kirk. It's the devil they know versus the devil they don't know. And I think Kevin O'Connell having the previous relationship with Kirk Cousins kind of tells me that they are more interested in keeping him and working around him and not taking the chance at starting over with a new quarterback. Now, that cap hit of $45 million, that's the elephant in the room, dude. Like, what are you going to do about that? You can restructure it, but at the end of the day, over the next 3 years, if you do restructure it, you're still going to be paying Kirk Cousins an absurd amount of money, and especially to be like a 500 mediocre quarterback. So I don't like it. It's not my preferred option, but I understand why the Vikings would want to keep him. So I would say to Vikings fans, especially the Kirk stands too, I think Kirk Cousins will remain with the Vikings in 2022.
There's also, since we're sort of playing out these scenarios here, you think about the backgrounds of these two guys. Like Kevin O'Connell, I think he would sign up to work with almost any type of quarterback, right? I mean, there's a great nugget in The Athletic today about the current unknown backup quarterback for the Rams that was undrafted that they feel proud that they've developed him into like a viable backup quarterback. Like I think he can take undrafted random guy, work with him. I think he can probably take first round pick guy, work with him. He can take Matthew Stafford and work with him. I'm curious to know what Kwesi thinks because he comes from a market background, both in his Wall Street career and in his football career. His entire ethos, aside from like communication, collaboration, all that stuff, right? His ethos is about value and about assigning value to a commodity on a roster or a commodity in a market on Wall Street. And is he going to look around the league and say, you know what the recipe for success is in this market? Paying a non-top 10 quarterback elite money, even on a restructure. Like how far down can you really get it? From 45 to 35 to 30? And even if you get it down to like 25 the first couple years, you're going to have to put so much money into a second or third year, and you're going to wind up with an older version of Cousins in the same spot you're in right now from a cap perspective. Exactly. So I think Kwesi's looking at this saying, man, like there's definitely a risk in moving off an established above average quarterback in Cousins, but there's more risk in locking into a non-elite quarterback at that kind of money compared to like a rookie scale contract for 5 years that we can build a roster around. And he saw the success the Browns had with kind of just an average starting quarterback on a rookie scale deal, allowing them to build up the rest of their team. They win 11 games last year. Didn't they win a playoff game too? Didn't they beat the Steelers in a playoff game?
Without Stefanski there.
Yeah.
So like analytically, if you want to use that word, Kirk Cousins makes no sense. So I can see this conversation almost certainly already having taken place over the last 3 weeks, and we'll see where it goes.
I bet this took place the first or second time that they talked. And my thing is, I think it's more important that O'Connell knows Kirk from the standpoint of that makes it easy to say, here's what I would do. And egos in football are such that if you are a quarterback whisperer, and this guy is not being brought in as you know, a guy that we know has been successful calling plays. This guy is being brought in day one. You hit the ground, you know QB play. Egos say, I want my own guy. And I want it to be young and a developmental guy that I can take from college, that I can take from the draft, that I can mold. Kirk is Kirk. Like he's past the point of, geez, Kevin, it's great to be back. I've been waiting for you so that you can remold me. So I think that there's a better case to be made that Kevin O'Connell stated his case of, I won't keep Kirk. And that actually makes sense. And that's why Kwesi partially bought in.
Yeah, I think this is ultimately a Kwesi decision, right? My guess, I disagree with you a little bit in that I think Kevin O'Connell probably comes in and says, listen, if you want me to work with Kirk, there's another level to his game, I can unlock it. If you want to draft somebody because that's the best move for the franchise, I'm good with that too. I think this is less a Kevin O'Connell decision and much more of a Kwesi value roster cap space decision.
But I think that O'Connell said the right thing the day that he sat down with Kwesi in the group that was trying to find the coach, and I think that thing was, I wouldn't keep him. I think they liked that a lot.
Wow.
Because Harbaugh would have probably said, let's keep him. Jim Harbaugh probably would have said, we got to win now. We got to go, boys. Let's go. Let's keep Kirk. And I think O'Connell said, oh, no. There's a whole world to be explored here.
Yeah. Well, let's keep talking about O'Connell here, because my first official statement is there's a lot to like about Kevin O'Connell. And we're now getting more anecdotes and stories about him, and we'll do a sort of a deep dive into the offense tomorrow on Purple Daily, but there's a great write-up in The Athletic. It's a Q&A between Chad Graff, the Vikings beat writer for The Athletic, and Jordan, is it Rodriguez, I think it's pronounced. Mm-hmm. And she laid out some certain things about schematically who is Kevin O'Connell, personality-wise who is Kevin O'Connell, and even a nugget about hiring here in a second. But from a scheme standpoint, she said, though he usually calls plays only in preseason games, so he has called plays in preseason games, for those of you who are panicked about his lack of play calling experience. O'Connell has been a huge part of the Rams' offensive design each week, especially after they traded for Matthew Stafford. O'Connell and Stafford worked a lot on manufacturing explosive passes out of pure drop-back looks instead of being overly reliant on play action. Football. Hit you with the football sounder there. That's right. Through much of the season, the Rams enjoyed the same explosive pass play rate without play action as the rest of the league enjoyed with play action. Football. Just a lot of organic, explosive plays because of their scheme and their weapons and their quarterback. And they have a good offensive line, too. Personality-wise, McVay and O'Connell are in constant troubleshooting and communication mode, as O'Connell also is with Stafford, and I'd go so far as saying O'Connell's demeanor is a nice foil to McVay's demeanor, and that he evens out the room temperature at times. Players and coaches gravitate toward O'Connell because he's genuine and disarming, but he has the answers to their questions as well. And if you're wondering, all right, do we have to be worried about nepotism again here? Mike Zimmer, Kubiak. Jordan says, every coach is probably going to hire one or two of people within their network, but I think O'Connell's son is only like 10 years old, so no worries on the nepotism front.
No worries? 10?
No,
2 years?
He's the Madden expert, so he knows what to do in 2-minute
Right,
drill.
that's what
He
I'm
should be
saying.
looking at his son
He'll get
to help
a
him out.
job.
Yes.
Yeah, 12 years old, he'll be barking out stuff. Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts after hearing some of that stuff?
I am excited to see a guy who knows how to run an offense in 2022. That's my thought.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea. This whole thing could work great. It could blow up, but I'm going to tell you right now, you know what? It's going to look like it should look. I as a football fan, I am looking forward to Sundays in the fall when I can sit down and watch the team in purple play. And it's like, you're making the most of your offensive players. This is incredible. Last year was painful. And I know the stats are fine, and you can go back and look at the box scores. I get all of that. But if you watched those games, are you telling me it looked right? And you'd go and watch different games, red zone switch-arounds, right? And you would see these offenses, and it'd be like, oh, my God, that's a really cool play. Oh, my God, that's really smart. That really works. And then you'd watch the Vikings. So I am looking forward to a guy that brings a sense of knowledge of how offenses in the present era should run. That's my primary thought.
Yeah, it is. It's good. I mean, pretty much everything you hear. Also, the more I read and hear about O'Connell, it reflects well on the way McVay goes about his business. McVay is so young himself, but he clearly has set up this structure with the rest of his assistant coaches that allows them to grow and to do certain things and collaborate.
His tree is real.
Yeah.
That's not a fluke.
And it's spectacular.
It's a great tree. Big palm tree, you think?
Football.
California, big palm tree?
Are we back to Judd here? Or
back to
Jax?
me.
Oh, okay.
All right, my statement is this. As the Super Bowl comes up, do not worry, Vikings fans, about the winner. I've seen back and forth. Should we be rooting for O'Connell's team because he'll be coming off the high of a Super Bowl win? Or do we root against him because he'll be more fired up to come here and try and win? What should we do? What should we do? I'm going to tell you right now. Sit back, relax, enjoy the commercials, and enjoy the chips and dip and Surly, and here's why. Because you can't lose. If O'Connell wins, awesome. Your new guy just won a Super Bowl, a bleeping title, right? If O'Connell loses, the Bengals, who have the model that the Vikings are following by hiring O'Connell to a large degree, you've got the blueprint just won.
So if the Bengals win,
Zach
the Vikings
Taylor,
tank is what you're saying.
I know. Well, you know what? I wouldn't mind that. But I'm saying that Zach Taylor, about 3 years back, was O'Connell. Basically the same thing. Mm-hmm. In fact, Zach was the quarterback's coach for McVay. O'Connell is the OC. My point is you can't lose, though. It's a win-win. Either the blueprint, which is the Bengals, wins the Super Bowl, or the guy who's going to be your new head coach wins. It's a win-win. Don't worry about it.
What if you desperately don't want Kirk Cousins around anymore and the Rams win the Super Bowl, further validating the idea of a non-elite quarterback? Although I would argue again that there's a reason Matthew Stafford was the number one overall pick. A lot of people mistakenly put those guys in the same bin. They are not in the same bin. But it might further validate.
Who was it, Declan? There was a guy last week who went through that entire thing on a sports show. I think it's a Score or something. And he went through the entire thing about Stafford and Kirk and the differences. I forget his name.
No.
Wears a baseball hat a lot. It was you. You're exactly right. There's no comparison.
Well, a lot of people still put them in the same.
A lot of people are mistaken. God bless them, but they're mistaken, and we appreciate you all. But if you are putting Kirk Cousins mentally in the same bin, Stafford makes some really stupid plays at times, okay? But he's not afraid to. Kirk Cousins looks at his own shadow and cowers. No comparison there. Zero comparison. So you win either way. Just remove Kirk from this whole thing. In fact, take him off the roster.
My next statement here. My God, your love of your love hatred of Kirk Cousins is one of my favorite things. That's not my statement, but
I don't like him I do not hate him as a human. I'm sure he's a great guy. I don't want him on my team. He's not a winning player.
Real quick, did he say? I gotta admit, I haven't watched the Pro Bowl in 15 years, and I stuck by that yesterday. So I did see a couple funny things. Now that I'm thinking about it, I have a few questions. Let me start with this one. Did you guys see when Trayvon and Stephon Diggs switched spots?
yes.
So, all right, it's a Pro Bowl. We're all having fun here. It's loosey-goosey, right? Like, this is a blast. This is great. It's kind of like the last game of the regular season that doesn't matter. Like, hey, we just need to get 17 more yards here. Let's have some awareness of, like we just need to get a ball to JJ. And, like, teeth clencher Kirk is, And these two guys switch spots. And Kirk, because Stephon had blanket coverage on Trayvon, I can't throw there. I got to check down. It's like, bro, it's the Pro Bowl.
Just
And so he does. So it's like I'm sure they came back to the huddle. And it's like, guy, we're gonna do this again.
Yeah,
please just throw. Like, this is all in fun, okay? It doesn't matter if he's covered. Just throw the freaking ball to the Diggs and see what happens. And so he threw this ball up, and it's like he can't even just like relax and enjoy the moment in the Pro Bowl.
It's so dead on. I thought the same exact thing.
My other question is, he was doing the skills competition and stuff and all this stuff over the weekend. Did he speak at all publicly about, I don't know, his franchise being blown up in the last month?
Dalvin did.
Jefferson did. I never saw Kirk. And I don't know.
Why has he, it's been a month, why has the leader of the franchise, both in stature, in tenure, and in salary, not spoken about the state of the franchise yet?
Why did every Viking on the Pro Bowl team get together for a relaxed, we're at the Pro Bowl picture, and there's no Kirk?
I don't know.
Again, did he just, guys, I got to go I got to go really bad.
Do they hate him? No. No one is saying that. Is it weird that he's just not, like, able to hang with the guys and loosen up and stuff? Like, I don't know.
You're thinking about the passes,
Throw the ball to the Diggs.
I thought the same thing.
It's weird.
Well, but he threw it on the next one. Yeah, because they probably had to come back and be like, "All right, dude, we're trying to create a moment here. Please help us."
Yeah, we're trying to get a picture, basically, a family bleeping picture.
Imagine like having to come back to the huddle and being like, "Okay, we need to recreate this, all right? Because you didn't see what was happening. Apparently, you checked down to the fullback or whatever." Sorry. His touchdown was a check down to a fullback too, which is great.
Yes.
Great.
Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah.
All right.
That worked out well.
San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you, Kyle Shanahan was at home being like, yeah, that's my guy.
Well, speaking of Justin Jefferson here, quickly, I'll give my last statement. Is keeping Justin Jefferson happy is priority number one for the Vikings. So he did talk about Kevin O'Connell. And for the most part, Justin Jefferson in his first 2 years has been a good soldier. He hasn't said anything incriminating. He's passionate and he cares a lot, and I love that and I respect him for it. But this is what he said about the idea of Kevin O'Connell being the next head coach of the Vikings.
I mean, I've been watching the Rams offense for a minute now. They get their playmakers the ball. They have some tremendous plays. Cooper Kupp wide open all the time. So, I mean, I'm excited for it. I mean, this is my first head coach that's going to be on the offensive side instead of defensive side. So, I'm happy.
Hell yeah. I'm all about it, Justin Jefferson.
Keep him
I'm
happy.
with you, man. Keep him happy.
Yes.
Love it.
Yep. Here for Justin Jefferson being happy and productive. And he put up some ridiculous numbers last year, but it was like felt like it took like a third of the season.
Well, and allowing him, and I don't care if it was Zimmer, Kirk, a combination, allowing him to come up 17 yards short of a Moss record is inexcusable.
More motivation though. Maybe it was tactical.
Yeah.
More motivation.
Go Bengals so Kevin O'Connell really want to work hard.
He did mention in that same interview, he mentioned, okay, like I came up short of that Moss record, but this year he was kind of annoyed by it, as anyone would be.
Yes.
By the way, if you're a business owner out there, Federated Insurance is not only a partner of ours that you can support, but they'll support your business, taking it to the next level through risk management strategy and resources. Find out more about how Federated can help your business protect against potential risk at federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. It is Statements halftime. Enjoy the halftime show. We'll be back in a minute.